all right, I keep making all these commitments to actually like comb my hair and do my makeup before these, because when I started these out, I actually like, it's almost like dating. Or yeah, I mean, or it sounds bad, but it's like my first impression, um, early days where I'd like put makeup on and like blow out my hair and stuff. So I don't know. I'm like, listen, I plan on doing that, but yeah, I keep saying that, so it's becoming increasingly suspicious. So anyway, I was also thinking that I was like, I should probably come up with some type of opener, which is, I don't know. Yeah, it's some opener. I used to do this thing kind of in the beginning of a day where I would rate, to kind of check in with myself, where I'd be like, okay, physical, like how do I feel physically on a scale of 1 to 10? It would just kind of make me like pay attention to myself. And then I'd look at like how do I feel emotionally? So it'd be like, just do I like sort of like feel like angry or, buoyant or happy or whatever. And it would be like mentally, I'd be like, what am I like kind of the quality, like my thinking? Is it like, but honestly, it's like, and I actually used to do it as a way to measure the beginning of the day and the end. And I'd kind of check back and then I'd kind of try to be like, all right, what created that shift one way or the other. But I actually don't do it anymore, and I don't think I would, because it's actually really about just like, do I feel good? And and the thing is now is like how I practice this is I'm not always interested in feeling good all the time. I'm actually curious about all states. So, and also like my like physical, emotional, like mental state going into something. Still there's a practical place for that, which was I'd be trying to calibrate sort of like what the impact was having, on things I was doing, was having on me, like how I was spending a day. But now I spend a lot more time being just interested in like having a little bit more of a dynamic curiosity. And case in point being is like I got a little tweak in my back yesterday, and so that pain tells me, so the relationship now that I have with myself is that pain tells me that there's something emotionally that I'm not tending to. So that process of sort of like patiently, so like actually I'll just kind of explain it quickly here, relative as quickly as I ever do like anything explained here. But so part of it is that the first thing I'll do is, before I try to do anything about the actual pain, I try to like not interfere with trying to shift it, like in a way where it's like I try to like create a level of comfort for myself physically, and then like a little space for it to kind of like be able to exist. Because it's like it's almost like with pain, and for me, like, and I don't want to be like putting this forward as like a straight up recommendation, is that like the inclination to like shut it up immediately, especially for me, when it's in the psoas and lower back, it's almost like just trying to get myself to shut up. So part of the thing is to like, it's really inconvenient, by the way. I mean, it sounds like I'm like, oh, it's like just like it's just inconvenient. Like everything second hub is inconvenient because it's like really naturally arising, and it's like, it's like this facet of our humanity, um that will, yeah, like the second, that's why it gets suppressed so much, is it's like doesn't fit in well with a really organized, controlled life, right? Like pleasure and feelings And then, like, the thing that I do is I'm just kind of like, and I hate doing it too. I mean, I'm not gonna be like I'm like literally riding the waves of bliss. Like it's a practice for me to like allow this space in myself. So I'm not like, oh my God, I get to do this. It's like I want the pain to go away. Like absolutely. So I'm it's even me repatterning myself to have patience and understand that that is my emotional body not feeling heard and escalating basically, and listening and just being like, look, I'm not going to try to correct you. What is it? What is this thing? And the thing is, like, not trying to correct you is that a lot of times it's like exactly the thing you don't want to hear. Was for it's for me. I mean, like, I think the thing was I was like, "Oh, man." I'd such a cognitive rationalization built around my thinking about how I was approaching something that it hadn't really taken into account how scared part of me was. So it's just listening to it, like, just kinda letting it, happen. It's really, I mean, I don't know if I mean, this isn't a live practice. I'd love to present this like, hey, you do this and all your problems are solved. But it's kind of like, like going to couples therapy, and the idea is that like your problems get solved. It's like, no, you just build a better way to have a relationship with yourself or with someone else. So yeah. And then I try to let it be for as long as I can in relative comfort, and which is like really goes against. Yeah, I mean, it's like very actively, like I very actively, I'm like, because I'll find myself like sort of be like, oh, like, and I'm like, oh yeah, no, 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 this is we kind of like wait with this for, and then I start shifting it, and I start doing the stuff I know that shifts it. Yeah, and there's still, I mean, I still have like the shadow of it right now. Like it's still present with me. It's still like in my body. But like, but like apparently receiving. So anyhow, it's a day in the life of a parinama practitioner. Yeah. Yeah, okay. See, here we go. The thing with it is that like the overall quality of my life is at this point right now defined more by my relationship. That's where I am at right now. Um, but more with my relationship with pain and like difficult feelings and thoughts and beliefs and stuff, like just more like having a just a better, like I kind of put it glibly, like a better relationship with misery, is that change that's actually creates like a lot more room for joy, because I think the thing about it's like, it's kind of like, the thing is like hypervigilance. If there's this thing that's like I'm always, it's like I really want to make sure I never feel bad. I really want to make sure I keep myself, like as close to like objectively safe as possible. I really don't ever want to feel grief. I really don't want to be fearful. I don't want to, um like the thing is that the larger the phenomenon is of those feelings, it's like you kind of like never get to like win. You're always, there's always the like, oh, when's the other shoe gonna drop? And then when the other shoe's gonna drop, it's terrible. So it's like being able to be in pain. It's not, I'm not gonna pretend that the pain was pleasant. And it's just, it's like disorienting. Like it kind of strips the expansiveness of life, because it really brings all the concentration into this like one aspect of yourself becomes right, so it's like it literally is a thing saying like pay attention to me, and to not pay attention to it and to be like shut the fuck up, like it's kind of an interesting thing, that at least in my experience with this. And it's hard to listen to it. It's hard to do this for me. Maybe it's for other people. But yeah, so like the overall like buoyancy about just being like having a better toolkit and relationship with things when they're challenging, that really creates a really considerable shift in what it feels like to be alive, just in moment to moment, hour to hour, day to day, etc. So, all right, there's that. We've got that going for us. So I'm going to read judgment, criticism, and feedback. So harsh judgment of someone typically involves rushing to a conclusion or working off limited information, often based on early programming or the biases of previous experiences. Judgment and criticism levy sanctions by way of opinions that can range in severity from being told what we should or shouldn't have done, all the way to behavior that's overtly cruel and or abusive. The internalized critic is an elaborate defense mechanism that has a magnetic relationship with criticism and judgment, both attracting it from others and in its own reflexive fault finding. They're inextricably linked as two sides of the same coin. Yeah. Yeah, I think one of the things about, like back to the hairball now called the tangle, is that these reflexes and then the associated belief systems and then this reality, this whole thing of projecting that out into the world, it's like this validation in the belief systems, this whole system of validating takes on greater investment and engagement. Investment. It takes on investment and builds more momentum because these belief systems start out as rationalizations, and then they continue as comfort with people that carry the same belief systems as us. So, I mean, this is one of those things where it's like everybody wants the same things as us, or like everybody thinks that, or how it is, everybody like talking in absolutes, that like, people gravitating towards each other who have similar reflexes around judgment, because it's like you get it, you get it, you get it kind of stuff. It's good to be around somebody who gets it kind of stuff. So if we didn't have positive early experiences with a patient adult, we may perceive any feedback as critical. A hidden cost of defensiveness is the effect it has on our growth and development. Receiving feedback is important for ongoing progress, but when we have the need to protect ourselves, even feedback from loved ones and trusted mentors is met with defense, and we may block reception and consideration of it. If we were criticized and diminished early in life, this protection is an understandable survival reflex. Folks who experienced considerate, constructive feedback early in life benefit from the ability to take and grow from feedback and criticism without recoiling to reflexive lashing back at a perceived threat. I do. I feel like I should have done that a couple of minutes ago. It's like little breaks. Whew. Okay, the amount of time we can remain open to what people are saying or doing without rushing to an opinion, judgment, or defense indicates our ability to accept folks as they are and our ability to accept ourselves. as we are. That gets a nice one. And read that again. It's nice. So the amount of time we can remain open to what people are saying or doing without rushing to an opinion, judgment, or defense indicates our ability to accept folks as they are and our ability to accept ourselves as we are. This gives greater access to growth and development, both personal and professional. A practical example is if I'm working with somebody and I can quickly offer advice or feedback without expecting the person to resist it or get upset, I will do it more often. But if the person needs buffered advice and additional time to spend to be sure that they don't feel attacked, there's the practical matter of a busy schedule and not having bandwidth to address an issue when additional time and energy are required. As a result, someone who can gracefully take feedback gets more development than the person who can't. Yeah. And, the thing is, too, is that when we are softening these adaptations, when I was writing the book, one of the things that often came to mind was like a lens with a filter in front of it, like a colored filter. I think really of this like very practical thing, like, like in theater, they put like a gel in front of the light and it changes the color. And I could even think about like an obstruction or a distortion or whatever, anything that's in front of the lens, that it changes what we think is reality. So when we change, and this is why Parinama is so focused on the inside job of this rather than, like the outside, even though they are connected, of course. The people around us, it's all connected, but that we're our like point of origination, because you have to start somewhere, is within ourselves. And so when my own judgment of others softened, and even my own sense that I was like, yeah, I'm not really that critical of myself, I'm really critical of other people, in this particular way. Everyone, it's not super, um in a very particular way. It wasn't like wide ranging. It was very particular. It was like it was mostly judgmental of, of people who I felt activated by, and I won't get any more into it than that, for particular reasons. It wasn't far reaching. I wasn't really like hyper judgmental. At least when I became an adult. As a kid, I think I was a lot more sort of reflexively judgmental. But just like the thing is that it's like you project this, okay, I will use this example. So, and this was how I like first had this very direct experience with it that blew this open, was when I was a teenager. At the point I was very fit. There's a mountain near my house called Mount Monadnock. And it was like I was fit enough that I could run it in 45 minutes. So I'd run up the mountain. And as I ran, I would pass people that were kind of like laboriously huffing and puffing their way up the mountain. And as I passed them, it's like I can't even remember the sneakers. Weird. I can like look down and see my feet. Is such a as I would pass them, I think these things like, I don't remember the exact thoughts, but I mean, it was like judgment of them, and it was like, so I just think judgmental mean things about them. It was probably really like, cutting. It's probably really cruel. I don't remember the specific examples of that, but there was kind of this like thing of like being able to like run past them, and like when I did, it was like there wasn't benevolence in it. It was like I was dominating them, like in the satisfaction of them, of like, really in my mind. I mean, I never said anything to anyone. Probably was like, hi, fake. Like, sorry. Oh my God. But so anyway, so there I was, really, like just, this archetype of physical fitness. Never mind that I like spent so much time exercising that I was like, probably, it was like people would be kind of disturbed by it. Um, retrospectively for good reason. There's like for good reason. That was another one where I was like, oh yeah, if somebody would point out like, I think you might be taking this a little too far, that I would think like, yeah, well, you don't really know much about being successful. Oh my God, I really wanted to laugh about that. I actually want to like laugh a lot longer for that, but I'm gonna kind of like cruise it out here. So fast forward a few, like a couple years later, I was out of shape. I gained weight. So I'd moved. Oh, that's it. I had been, I'd been in a relationship, and we'd moved, and it had been a really negative experience for me. I was much too young of a kid to have like, to have the maturity, and also a lot of my, like adapted behaviors. I was incredibly unaware of like all, lost their kind of coping mechanisms. So I struggled. And so I found myself back in New Hampshire, walking up Mount Monadnock slowly and definitely out of breath, and kind of realizing like, wow, this is going to be really hard, and feeling, not great at the time. And there are people that just were like cruising past me. And I remember that all I could see was that it was on, I was like, oh, it like felt like like a boomerang, or like it returned. It was like as they passed me, and they'd be like, families and smiling people about, sort of, I felt them thinking the same things that I had once thought of other people at me. I thought, that's interesting. And so that broke open for me a realization as far as my own judgment about being like, oh, that's how that works. Because judgment is meant to become a protection. But what it does is it just creates a war. So it's like bringing artillery and, like just, it's just like bringing it like to just a situation, and like forcing the hand, like forcing a war into existence. And so when it comes to judgment, it's that when we soften our own internal critic, we start talking to it. Stop it being like, oh, this is just how I am. This is just how I am. I like call it like it is, or like I see the reality. It's like, that's not a reality. It's a choice to see the shitty thing in something. It's not an objective truth that something is shit or somebody is like weak or someone. That's just not, it's a choice. There's an infinite spectrum of observable traits and characteristics of a situation or a person. So it isn't a call it as it is. That's bullshit. That once that softens, there's a freedom in life, because it isn't the sense of, it's like, oh, now everyone's thinking that. That's what everyone thinks. So you basically are creating your world. You're becoming an active participant in building the world that you're operating in. And the thing is, you can never know what somebody's thinking, right? So all you're really going to get most of the times, you're going to start with some projection that people think the way you do. I mean, yeah, there'll be people who judge you, but if you judge yourself and people judge you, like, now you're like, oh, sweet, I found a like adversary, and it's like, here we go. And and without realizing, it takes two to tango. So that dynamic is another one where it's like, I'm being victimized. It's like, no, I'm being activated in this way that I'm finding like tasty. Like, I'm finding like, really, it's like, yeah, this is validating. Versus like, if somebody's critical and it's like, it's kind of like sad, it's like, it's just like, yeah, I don't really know that that's sad. Yeah, it's sad because it's like, first of all, knowing that that's like a cage of a reality. So it's kind of like there's like a perception that this is reality for them. And one of the ways that you can shift that in other people is not talking about it, but it's actually existing as somebody who isn't judging them. And even calling out a little bit of it, not a lot. I'll say I won't be like, with all due respect, I don't co-sign on that. I don't think that that's true, what you're saying about yourself. And usually I'll pick something that's literally like I won't pick always something when they're talking about other people. It's usually because it'll show up, the self-deprecating humor, the hero who can talk shit about themselves. That's another one. It's ridiculous. All right. Okay. Let's see what time it is. It's like, all right. I'm supremely eager to get through these. And I think I'm going to try to I'm going to sign off this one and I'm going to start a second one for the shadows of anger and shame. Yeah. I'm really interested to go here right now too, because I'm wondering with like some of the emotional stuff, whether it's something in here might be helpful for me. So anyway, I'm going to sign off again. Thank you for any interaction, likes and comments. Mira, you always get a shout out because it means so much to me. It really does. I will say that, and maybe I've said this before and I'm just not remembering it, or I said it in a stream that I deleted, but it's a lot and just as a like thank you to Mira, is how much it means to me that you interact with us, that you comment. And that's something that's really becoming clear to me, is that it's like, it really is like the attunement kind of validation thing, where it means a lot to me to, yeah, I think an obvious thing is just like that there's an interaction, you know, and that you give me your, and this is, so you comment and you'll also send me messages where, you kind of, where you'll, go more into like your thoughts on things, which is like really appreciated. So here, this one's for you. All right. Thank you so much, everyone. I will see you on the next episode of Parinama. All right, bye now.